Good morning, everyone. John471 here to discuss the S&P 500. Today is Wednesday, June 4th, 2025. Allow me to read our disclaimer. Derivatives trading is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. Let's begin today, as we always do, with our news. As mentioned, today is Wednesday, June 4th. The news we have on the docket today, we got mortgage applications already. We have at 8:15, we have the ADP employment report, private company that reports their payroll numbers ahead of the BLS. It's marginally relevant. Moving on, we also get at 9:45 the Global Services PMI, which will be a number to be aware of with the Canadian BOC rate decision. We have the ISM non-manufacturing PMI for May, and we also get the crude inventories. I would be aware, if you trade crude, I would be aware of crude today. It's, we had some news yesterday about Iran potentially starting to enrich uranium. Crude got a reaction. It's a market to be aware of, in my opinion, if you trade it. We also get the beige book today, and Trump will be signing a proclamation. Be aware in case there's any rhetoric that comes out of that. But anyway, that's what we have today. Today is also the Wednesday ahead of non-farm payrolls. And so for me, generally, this is kind of like oftentimes, we might get a reasonable trade today. But I wouldn't be surprised if it potentially quiets down in the afternoon if we start to go into waiting mode for NFP, or it might be busy. Generally tomorrow, the day before, I expect to be a little bit either quieter or a more difficult trade, but we'll see what we get. We'll see what we get this week. Let's move on to our charts. Okay, here we are on our chart of the S&P 500. Full session daily bars, just kind of checking in with what we're doing on the higher time frame. The big pieces here, which I've been talking about a whole bunch, really, we'll just begin with this line. The 58.21 is the most traded price going back like 3 years. This is our big target when we were trying to push above the March range, and obviously we did it. And as you can see, we're holding it bid. We basically started here, pushed up, pressed back into it, found nothing but support, and just kind of have been pushing higher. We very weakly took this high. We were looking for the 6,000 target. This test happened overnight. We got to 6,008. 87s are the RTH high, RTH prior month's high, which we were able to test yesterday. But we haven't gotten to the 6K number during RTH again yet, nor the 6,008. Above here, there's an HVN, the 6030s that we'll be looking for, and potentially 6050s. Looking higher if we continue higher. But what's going on in this balance? Well, after this push lower, which kind of reiterated the support below the 58.21s, that's when we got the push higher. This was news driven. We tried to pull back again here, but found support ahead of the 58.21s and started one time framing higher, meaning that we are putting in successive higher lows on the daily. Here's our low, one low, here's our pivot, and these lows are just getting higher. So the question for today, obviously, if we would break that, that would be significant. We've already taken the high, however. So, things are still remaining fairly bullish. Will we get this high today? That's the next question. Let's move on to a smaller time frame chart and plan a bit more specifically. Okay, here we are on our market profile chart, RTH only. What are we looking at here? Here's the last several days, pretty balanced area. We were looking for the test lower when we saw value kind of moving lower. We had a news pop first, but then we got that test and it showed we saw support and have thus been moving higher. Yesterday when we came in, pretty much all of my plans were built around these single prints left from yesterday, or from the prior day. And so for me, for me is if we picked a side on these singles, then I was going to be trading from that side. And that was essentially my plan. Like if we held above them, I'd be long, below them, I'd be short. And if we chopped around them, I would, be outside in. And pretty much as soon as I was done with the video, we kind of crossed. We were below them when I did the video, and then we essentially just kind of crossed the singles and just never looked back. So that kind of worked out the way we expect. And then again today, look, we have more single prints. So that'll be an additional kind of feature that we can use for our planning today. Quick question, what are single prints? Single prints are unauctioned areas. So what's an unauctioned area mean? It means that whoever needed to buy something down here needed to do it with such aggression that we just repriced. We just, in a normal situation, the market moves higher, pulls back, moves higher, pulls back, moves higher, pulls back. But when whoever's doing the buying or the selling, can happen obviously either direction, when they are so aggressive to buy, need to buy so much, what you see instead of a push up, retest, you see just a whole new range get established, and then we don't get back to where we just were. We leave an unauctioned area because whoever was buying just needed to buy the whole way up and establish a new trading range. And that's what happened when we moved from down here to up here. And then it happened again when we moved from down here to up here. So for me, these areas are clear areas to either be retested and find out if the buyers are still there, or to be retested and find out that buying party is just done now. Let's move on to a smaller time frame chart and plan for specific price action. Okay, so here we are on our intraday chart. This is a 30-minute chart. I'm gonna use a 30-minute chart today. And that's just to illustrate that right now, currently, we have this area of balance. We have a small, like an internal double TPO low on this low. It might not last even through this video, but if it does, this area of structure is going to be fairly important depending on how we go, how we open and whatnot. What we can notice from here is, as I said, we were planning around these singles a whole bunch. We pretty much opened or, got to here after plans and just ripped above them, put in these new singles. So guess what? We're going to treat these singles similarly today. Similarly, we see that it also corresponds with a key LVN in yesterday's profile. There's kind of a double distribution, but really not that much happened down there. We kind of pushed up here and most of our trading was done around in this upper distribution region. Single prints left, and we're kind of just grinding higher here. And you notice that the trade is kind of tightening. It's tightening. Why is it tightening? It's tightening because the larger bias is long. See, when we have these big swings, boom, boom, it's because nobody's sure if they want to buy it or sell it. There's disagreement. Do we want to sell it? Do we want to buy it? Do we want to sell it? Do we want to buy it? But now up here, everyone kind of knows, oh, we want to buy it. Does that last? We'll find out. But anyway, so the key, let's go over our ideas here. The overnight profile, very, absolutely clear LVN. So the most bullish idea would really be if this LVN holds, and we thus do not get the overnight low. This is a possibility. So how would this look? Well, first we could just hold this area of balance. That would be, that's a possibility. But we could hold this area of balance. I tend to think these prices need to be checked one more time, but I could be wrong. I could easily be wrong. But regardless, we can look at it both ways. We could either kind of hold here and just start to push, or we could kind of chop around here and give one more test lower that kind of finds support on this structure, and then just revert higher. Either way, the key is if we kind of preserve this zone and thus the overnight low, and we start to work higher, obviously we're already above yesterday's high. We're looking for the overnight high as well. Now, if we get through the overnight high, what's the next target? The one I've been talking about for weeks, Millennium, the 6,000 figure. If the 6,000 figure is not immediately rejected, and I don't think it'll be immediately rejected, then I would be up for a test of this 606 and 608 area, which would likely potentially propel stops up to this next 6016 zone, which would be the next target up. So if we're able to do that and start to establish acceptance above this area, then I would be up for this whole kind of like choppy grind to just be able to continue up to this next zone. And then obviously the next big one up here would be those 6030s, which is the other price I've been talking about for a long time. Through the 6030s, I would just go zone to zone. I don't really, the 6050 would be the next big target up here above, but that's pretty good excursion. So this is basically the most bullish idea. If we preserve this LVN, maybe we get a test, maybe we don't, but start to grind higher. Could this happen with a more significant pullback? Sure, we could. How could that look? Well, here's the thing. If we start to pull back and fall through this zone, then obviously the next key area to be tested are these single prints. So here's the thing. Single prints could be an area, just like I said on the last chart, where buyers were here last time we were here. Are they still here? Well, I guess you're watching this because you want the answer, and I'll tell you the answer. Maybe. The answer is maybe. So, and we won't know until we check these prices. But anyway, so we could dip into this area and it could just kind of lick check, and then boom, we're just back to what we were just doing and we start to rally again. That is a possibility. That's possibility one. Possibility two would be obviously if we start to drop through this area. But for me, if the thing is this, I would need, if we drop into this area, I'm going to be less aggressive to take the long down here without some indication that we are going to continue. So I would need to see a good setup. It could be a great trade if we dip and push back above these singles. Now, if that happens and I get on the long, I would be targeting this zone. Why would I target this zone? Because if we miss that high initially, then what could happen is there could be a lot of longs stuck in here that are just trying to sell ahead of this high. So for me, if I get on a long down here, I'm going to be targeting this zone so I can create some revenue for my trade before everybody else panics and sells. And then if I have a runner and we're still able to keep going, that's great. Okay, let's go over bearish ideas. How could the bearish ideas look? Well, again, right here, what we could see is maybe a test higher, a quick test above this area. And then everyone's like, oh, we're just going to trend and do what he just said. But then we just fall back down, get back below this area, and then start to revert, find resistance on subsequent attempts to reattack that high and start moving. And so just the photo negative of the last idea, rejection here and a push down to these singles, which, like I just said, are a place where we could see buyers pick back up. But what happens if they don't? What happens if we test into this area? Boom, we test, all of a sudden we start to look like we're going to rally, but like I said, maybe we get those lower highs, fall back down. If we're unable to get through this zone again and start pressuring these lows, then we'll look for mid-century. And if mid-century is unable to provide any support, then you guessed it, the next target would be this area, which is yesterday's low and the singles from yesterday. I'm really not expecting this to happen today for us to get the whole way down to here and break the one time framing. If we do, we need to be aware of a lick check because maybe the buyers are still down here. Maybe they're just waiting to see yesterday's low get tested, everybody panic and start to sell. And they're like, ooh, we want to buy all this stuff that you guys are panicking and selling. And then we just go higher. That's a distinct possibility. So we need to be aware of that. The big surprise today, always pay attention to what the big surprise is, the thing that I don't think is going to happen, because if that happens, it's usually going to be if you're quick enough to be able to understand and react to it, it might be the best trade of the day. But so the unexpected thing would be if we lose this low and start to work lower, in which case, because it's not, a high probability expectation for me, I would just be going zone to zone, meaning I would see, okay, they're still selling it here, so I'll target this zone. Okay, are they still selling it? I'll target this zone. And just go zone to zone. That's what I got for you. Let's go over our nothing day quickly. What would our nothing day be? Our nothing day, so there's a lot of ways we could get a nothing day today, especially with non-farm looming. A nothing day could just be a choppy grind higher, where it's just like everybody knows we're just buying it, and we're not getting great entries. We're just kind of like grinding higher. That could be a nothing day where we just kind of grind. We could also have a nothing day We could have a nothing day that kind of takes yesterday's high, which we already did. So we show that we take the high, then we fall back, push down into the singles. Everyone's like, oh, this is the pullback trade. Or actually be like, half the people think this is the pullback trade, half the people think this is get on the short trade. And what's the net result of that? Chop. Just around here, we could chop above the singles in a kind of meaningless way, or we could drop down below this set of singles and just chop around in here the rest of the day, which this one I could see happening. I could see us dropping to century and chopping around century today. That's a distinct possibility. But regardless, that's all I got for you. Hopefully this is complete. Be aware that this is the Wednesday before non-farm, so we may get a decent trade today, or we may get a very quiet trade. Just have to see who's here. But that's what I got for you today. Hopefully this is helpful. Hopefully it's complete. Hopefully you're having a great morning. And most importantly, hopefully you can find some way to improve your trading today that is not dependent upon your P&L. That's what I got for you. Let's get out there and clock those ticks. Ciao.